Hi, my name is Alex Raij. I'm the co-chef, co-owner of Txikito in West Chelsea, a Basque restaurant that celebrates cider every day. It's New York Cider Week, and we're going to make some Basque-inspired dishes for you. I'm going to start with this beautiful rainbow chard, which is from New York. And I have some cilantro macho. This is not a typical Basque ingredient, but we love the fresh flavor of cilantro juxtaposed against the sort of austere, very straightforward flavors of Basque cooking. I've got some local tomatoes. These are greenhouse tomatoes yet. They were started in greenhouse anyways, and then they get a lot of natural sun every day. But we're still about 3 or 4 weeks away from like the regular outdoor tomato. No matter, sometimes I say this in our book, the Basque book, sometimes the best tomato salad you ever had has more to do with how you treat the onion than the tomato itself. We're going to make a tortilla because that's very typical in the cider houses of the Basque country. In this case, the tortilla is going to be a little bit lighter. Typically, a tortilla is made with potatoes and onions and a large amount of olive oil. In this case, because we have this beautiful chard, we're going to make the tortilla from Acelgas, or from Swiss chard. These chard stems are really crisp, and so I'm going to go ahead and take out the veins and then wilt down the stems and the leaves separately. Whenever you make a tortilla, you definitely have to make it from cooked ingredients so that the tortilla doesn't become all waterlogged. So we're going to have the tortilla, the tomato salad, and then finally we're going to have some local squid. Squid is one of my favorite ingredients. It's a very typical Basque ingredient. It goes great with cider, and it's also an amazing New York ingredient. I think some of the best squid I've ever had in my life is from New York, and we buy some of the finest squid that we can get our hands on. So all of this stuff is actually available at the Union Square or Brooklyn farmers markets. You just have to pick the right day to find the fish purveyors, but otherwise there's nothing here that you can't find. Obviously fresh eggs, sun gold tomatoes, white onion, the cilantro macho. This could be anything. Typically the Basque country would be parsley, if anything at all. Swiss chard, tomatoes, onions, and then I'm going to get a little bit of really high quality tuna as well to put on top of the tomato salad. So we're going to get started. I have a small grill pan or a grill situation heating. You can do this on your outdoor grill, or you can do it in a pan. And it's actually great to go ahead and thread these on skewers. You can cut them loose later. It's not like that you have to eat them on a skewer, but it sure does make it easy to turn the squid so you can get some nice color on it. The other thing you want to make sure is that squid's a very wet ingredient, so I've got this sitting on a paper towel just to get it a little drier, and then I'll remove the paper towel and add some olive oil to get a little conductivity going. So these are, I double threaded them. If you use 2 skewers, it just makes it not spin around on end. It's just a little trick that we do at the restaurant. So to clean the chard stems, I like to just cut down, and since these are going to get wilted down, they don't need to look pretty. They're never going to look prettier than they did when we first bought them. Obviously the smaller they are, the more tender. So if you want to make it like some kind of like chard salad or something, definitely buy the smaller leaves. But chard likes to be cooked. You can also turn it on its side and fold it, and then just do this. And that's a really nice, easy way to deal with that vein. So once you've got the ribs out of the Swiss chard, you just want to gather it up. This has just been washed, and it's actually great for it to be wet. Because it will help it steam and saute at the same time. And I just want this in kind of like big ribbons. I don't want it too thin because I don't want it to sort of wilt into nothing. Not because this isn't a lot of chard, because it is and we might not use it all, but because we want some structure to the tortilla, like the way that when you're making a tortilla, the way that the vegetables sort of interlock within the egg is part of the art of making the tortilla. So it has volume, and when you cut it, it doesn't all fall apart. So you can go ahead and wilt this down in batches, but I have a big pot, so I'm gonna just wilt it down all at once. And I'm gonna use olive oil. And chard is great with garlic, but I like a little bit of onion in my tortillas for sweetness. Even when I'm making them out of potato, like the traditional potato. So I'm just waiting for this oil to heat up, but I actually don't want any color on this because I think caramelizing the onions makes it like super rich and not the ideal flavor. So I'm really just waiting for that to warm up a little, and I'm gonna put them in there. It's not a ton of onion, it's a back flavor. Definitely salt your onion because that'll make all the juices weep out and help them break down faster. That's true of all the vegetables. So just get that going. And again, I cut these kind of in long skinnies because to the extent that they're contributing any kind of vegetable quality to the tortilla, they're also going to contribute a little bit of structure as well. If your onions are going a little slow at the beginning and you're afraid they're going to burn, you can cover them. But the salt usually does the trick of pulling out the juices and helping them wilt faster. So we'll give those a head start, and then we'll throw in the chard. And then as soon as I get these that's going well, you can hear it, you can smell it, and you can see it. When they're about halfway translucent, which this small amount of onion and this sort of copious amount of oil, and yes, that's intentional, to use a lot of olive oil. If you don't like to use a lot of olive oil, probably don't make a tortilla. And now I'm just going to turn it down a touch because I just don't want my fire alarm to go off in my apartment. And I'm just going to throw these in by the handful. Coat them in oil. And throw another pinch of salt in there. Just remember that these are going to cook down a lot. So while you want to be generous with the salt for flavor, you don't want to oversalt them because they're going to break down a good amount. And I usually actually let them, you can see how they're kind of breaking down already. I usually let the first amount break down. It's just kind of a trick. If you cook down some and then cook down sort of the second handful or the second batch, once the first batch is cooked down, then what you end up with is much greener, sort of more verdant vegetable because they don't get all overcooked, like they're actually sort of cooking in the other juices. So we'll use 6 eggs in this one. Depends on how sort of thick you want it. Another pinch of salt in here. The chard's been pre-cooked with some of the stems, not all of them, just because I think I had too much. And I actually beat up the eggs, and I'm actually going to put these, I think they're easier to beat in a smaller bowl, but I'm going to put them in a bigger bowl because you always want to add whatever the garnish is to the tortilla or the flavor of the tortilla, whether it's the potato or the Swiss chard or whatever it is. You want to add that hot because what that does is it tempers the eggs and it makes it enrobe the vegetable better, and then you'll have a better structure with your tortilla. So I'm now taking hot, I'm going to take hot Swiss chard and I'm going to add it to my room temperature whisked eggs. And this is going to temper the eggs as you would for ice cream or any kind of egg sauce like hollandaise or whatever. It's serving the same purpose. And as I'm scooping this out, I'm leaving those delicious Swiss chard juices behind. That's okay. If you went ahead and sauteed those stems, which I'm going to do later, you can saute them off in a pan and then throw them into those juices, and you can put that on pasta or whatever. Preheated a good amount of olive oil. You don't want to deep fry it, but you do want to add that in. I'm holding back just one little bit of it because I want the egg on the inside to cook. So I need part of it to scramble within the tortilla, kind of like when you're making an omelet. You have to just know when to stop. This is the last of it. People always ask me, is the tortilla made on high heat or low heat? And I always say both. So once you start working on the structure of the tortilla, you want to turn it down once it sets up. And this is the time when I like to start to pull in the sides of the tortilla. I didn't mention it, but I do like a non-stick pan for this. If you have a really good, very well seasoned enamel or cast iron pan that you love and you believe in, go for it. But I especially think that unless you're fairly well practiced, you should probably use a non-stick pan at least until you know what you're doing. All right, wish me luck. I usually do this with a metal thing at work. I don't make a ton of tortillas at home. But we'll try to flip this nice for you. Typically you want the kind of plate that sits right inside the pan, but of course I don't have that size. Choke up on your pan and have no fear, just flip. And then I do like to add just a touch of oil before sliding it back in. And you can see that all that chard didn't, you need a lot because it does cook down. Again, I'm reshaping it on pulling in the corners and tucking them in, like just willing it. And then I like to press it down too, because that way the edges get this kind of like curved up. And to make sure that it's not sticking, which you can see that it's not. And then I usually like to flip it once or twice more. So I'm going to flip it again, because you actually want your tortillas to be kind of pale, not like too dark. I don't like them color free, which is, like this is what people think is like the ideal color for a tortilla. I actually like them to have a little bit of a golden color. That's just a personal preference. So while the tortilla is cooking, we're going to go ahead and grill the squid. Again, just very simple, salt and olive oil. And instead of parsley, I'm going to use this same cilantro. And a squeeze of lime juice, but this could easily be vinegar. And one of the things that I love, about cider is that you can use vinegars really freely with it, whereas wine is often compromised by by vinegar. With cider, you don't have to like have that concern. So I'm just going to squeeze this over afterwards. So I'm going to go ahead. There's something really delicious about grilled squid, in my opinion, and it's going to go great with the rest of these flavors. So you want to oil the protein, but you don't want it dripping off of there because you don't want to create any flare-ups, because that actually will give you that kind of torch taste that doesn't taste good. And if you do get the flare-ups, then you just want to move the squid around. I'm not sure that this is how I did. Yeah, it is. Okay, great. So I'm actually going to sort of make sure that it won't stick. And if you're doing this on an outdoor grill, you probably want to soak the skewers just so they don't catch on fire. Maybe even on an indoor grill, we'll see. That's what I was afraid of. Just don't want the fire alarm to go on. The tortilla is done, delicious golden brown, ready to go. You want to let this sit for a while. The other nice thing about this menu is it's 100% edible at room temperature, which is great when everything's sort of at the height of flavor. So let this sit, let the flavors gel. You can make it in the morning and let it sit on your table until the afternoon, and it'll only be better for it. And you don't have to reheat it. These are typically eaten room temperature. And, I'm not that big a fan of reheated tortilla. Now, for the tomato salad, super simple. I like red onion just because it's pretty, but you can take whatever onion you like. If you have like Vidalia or like something really sweet, use that. Just slice it thin, but not paper thin. You want to have a little bit of a bite. And what I like to do is make kind of like a little vinaigrette out of cherry tomatoes and onion. And then pour that over the larger tomatoes. So that's kind of what I'm going to do. So when these are sun golds, they're obviously like such a sweet variety, and they're nice because some of them are like the size of a marble and some are a little bigger. So what I usually do is have half of them and leave half of them whole, just to have like a variety of textures. And also because I usually like to marinate these a little bit ahead of time, some of them will break down and turn into like a sweet vinaigrette, and then the other ones will stay whole and have that sweet burst of flavor. So once you get the ones you want cut in half, I'm kind of just grabbing the bigger ones. Adding a pinch of salt to the tomatoes, and then I'm going to scatter the onions on top, making sure to sort of break them up so that they're going to be in contact with the oil and the vinegar. I'm going to add another pinch of salt on top of that. And if you like pepper, you can, but again, it's not really so typical in the Basque Country. They're really not huge fans of covering up flavors or sort of changing the natural flavor of foods. So that just can sit there for a minute, and again, that salt is going to start working on the onion and start breaking it down. And you can even dress them right away. You know, sometimes people say, you know, don't dress the salad till last minute. I actually really like to dress it When it comes to vinegar, when it comes to oil, it must be olive oil and it should be Arbequina, in my opinion. Not that there aren't other good ones, but that is, to me, the most superior. For vinegar, you can use whatever you want. I happen to have some Hudson Valley Ranch vinegar. So I'm going to, and all this is sugar, water, salt, and vinegar, and then the tops, the bulbs of the ramps, which gives it like that beautiful sort of semi-sweet garlicky flavor. And again, just give this a quick stir, let those flavors come together, maybe 10 minutes. It could even be half an hour before, honestly. And then go ahead and cut your tomatoes. These have some kind of leathery skins, but they'll be great. In the Basque country, a lot of times they'll peel their tomatoes. I'm always so charmed by that because they don't love those thick skins. Americans like the tartness. So now I'm just going to season these again with a little bit of salt. And then this is their dressing. So I'm just going to pour this right over. This is, again, olive oil, red onion, little sun golds, and the ramp vinegar. Okay. So I think our squid is done also. Go ahead and put it on a plate. And so the squid, you want to serve it kind of medium. It kind of, grilling is kind of ideal for squid because the edges get kind of like burnt and crunchy, and then the inside between like there will be like nice and medium, sort of medium rare. And you don't need to worry too much. I mean, a lot of people don't like to eat raw squid. I absolutely love it, but you don't need to worry about it too much. But while those last ones are cooking, I'm just going to dress this really quick with a little bit of lime juice and olive oil. And I'll pull the other ones off when they're ready. And then same here. You don't need to chop up these herbs. You can just, it's almost like dill. This cilantro macho is just like, I guess, the male version of the cilantro. Happy Cider Week. Enjoy the week. Enjoy your cider.
It's delicious.